I want to talk to you a little bit about restoring America, because that is the question I've asked you all this week. Does it matter if our president is surrounded by socialists and Marxists? Yes, because that's not a restoration. That is a rebuild. You want to rebuild America? Great. We got a guy who wants to build it in a different way. But what if you want to restore America? Well, if you ever have restored an old building, and I have because I lived in Connecticut, and I have to tell you, I learned the definition of the word quaint means crap. Don't ever buy a house that's quaint, because you'll have to strip it down. And if you live in a historic district, it's a pain in the neck. But when it's done, it's worth it. Okay, so if we want to restore America, we have to what? We have to figure out, how did it start? What did it look like? What was the foundation? Well, the foundation of America was stone. Strong, strength. Make sure it stands there. What is it? It is faith. Truth was the other piece of it. That's the house. Truth. Hope. Hope can only be had if there is truth. If you go to a doctor and he says, hey, you've got cancer. Okay, that's not real hopeful, but it's better than going to a doctor when you have cancer and the doctor says, don't worry about it, you've got the sniffles. That's false hope. On faith, we build a house of hope. The truth. Tell me the truth. And then, the best thing that Americans have always done. We're the best in the world. Charity. We shelter each other. We take care of each other. We provide the roof over each other's house, not because the government tells us to, but because it's who we are. We want to. We help neighbors out. So, if we're going to restore it, we need faith, hope, and charity. Tonight, we're going to spend an hour talking about faith, because this has been so grossly distorted by progressives. Most people will tell you now, oh, we're not a Christian nation. We're not Judeo-Christian. What? Oh, these people were deists. They were atheists. Really? America, if you want to restore our country, we have to look at the foundations, find out how we were built, and repeat the process. We also need to find the things that unite us. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Faith, hope, and charity we can unite on. Politics will divide us. And I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, united we stand, divided we fall. We are on the verge of collapse. Let's rebuild it. David Barton, founder and president of Wall Builders, author of Original Intent, The Courts, the Constitution, and Religion. David, man, I have to tell you, I read this. How many years ago did Original Intent come out?
Oh, gracious. It's been a few years.
Yeah, it's been 10 at least.
Probably.
I read that years ago, and it is an honor to know you. It is.
Thanks.
We have got to do this on television.
Yeah.
Because most people, we had 8,000 people in the venue or 2 weeks ago in Orlando.
Packed house.
Packed house. And you could hear people going, oh my gosh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So why don't you take me through these two paintings.
Okay.
This is American history. Here you go, gang. This is the stuff you're never, ever going to be taught in school. This is the Constitution. This is the Declaration of Independence. Which one do you want to start at?
Let's start with the signers of the deck. That's a fun one.
Okay, so the premise here is, remember, America, no, there's nobody. They're not God-fearing people. We're not a country based in God or faith. No, no, no. No. Where do we start here?
Let's start with the overall group. Let's just start. Let me start with this book right here. This came out of Continental Congress. This is the rarest, one of the rarest books in America. That little jewel right there is the first Bible printed in English in America.
Where am I going? Up here? One of the first Bibles printed in
English in America, and it was printed by those guys right there. That Congress printed that Bible, and the original congressional documents say that Bible is, quote, a neat edition of the Holy Scriptures for the use of our schools, end quote.
I'm sorry, what?
A neat edition of the Holy Scriptures for the use of our schools, end quote. And in the front of that Bible, it has a congressional endorsement recommending
But everyone
that
will
Bible.
tell you separation of church and state.
And that's what they wanted. They're the guys who came up with that. So I think they know what the definition is.
Okay. How many of these are left?
There's 22 left in private hands. They printed 10,000 in Congress, and there's 22 left, and that's one of the 22 right there.
Okay. So let me start now. There's Congress. Let me just get a big red marker here so people can see it. Here's the Continental Congress, and they're getting ready to sign the Declaration of Independence.
That's Richard Henry Lee. He's the guy who made the recommendation that we separate from Congress. It was really cool. When he died and his papers were passed on to his grandson printed the papers in 2 volumes, and they looked at the papers and says, isn't it cool that we had so many Christians together? And so he's looking at all the founders' writings, and that was the epitome of what a Christian patriot looked like, was Richard Henry Lee.
Let me ask you this, because when the left always paints Christians as hate mongers.
Yeah.
These guys, George Washington, I mean, they were vigorous defenders of other faiths, of Jewish religion, of any other religion, right?
They were. One of the things you find is that was the trait that they taught of Christianity. Christianity is not coercive. They said, don't compare us to European Christianity. That was coercive. We're not. We believe that truth wins. You present the truth, that's fine. And so you'll find that in the American Revolution, we had Jewish patriots, we had Christian patriots, we had Muslims here in 1619, we had the first Jewish synagogue, 1654. These guys had no trouble with other religions, but they didn't deny their own.
Ben Franklin, he was asked, I think it was by Yale, you'll know this better than me, asked by Yale, what is the definition of the American religion? And he said, there is a God.
That's right.
There is an afterlife. We'll have to answer for our sins in the afterlife. And the best way to serve God is to serve other people.
That's right.
That doesn't sound like, I mean, that's not hate mongering.
Not radical stuff at all. Right. And that's why they were so good, as they set forth that model of real cooperation, and they're really good on that.
You know, let's go to number 2 here. Who's this?
That's Sam Adams. Sam Adams, the father of the American Revolution, he was really known as a outspoken Christian guy. This is one of his proclamations. As governor of Massachusetts, he did 7 of these. 7 times he called his state to prayer, and it is not squishy language that he uses in
he was amazing.
He was outspoken.
If you see here on the Faith, Hope, and Charity posters that we have made, can you get a shot of that? The Faith, Hope, and Charity, that is Samuel Adams. We were talking on the radio today about health care. I don't have a problem with Massachusetts wanting to do health care. You can bankrupt your state all you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Don't force it on me and the other states.
That's right.
And that was the idea.
That was religion. That's why the First Amendment limited only the federal government. It didn't limit the states at all.
You can do whatever
it was up to the people.
States.
Let the people make their choices.
Okay.
Real simple.
So there's a proclamation of a day of prayer.
Yes, day of prayer. And by the way, he would often call the state to a day of fasting, humiliation, and prayer. So he was serious about praying.
Don't never ask to be humbled or humiliation from God, because he'll give that to you.
He'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Charles Carroll, right there. Let me pull a letter from Charles Carroll. I've got Charles right here. This is a letter from Charles Carroll. He is the final surviving signer of the Declaration. Out of the 56, he's the last one to die. He died at the age of 95. And this is a letter that he wrote at 89, declaration of his faith in God. Very outspoken. This guy actually took and endowed, he's the wealthiest man in America. He took his money and he endowed permanently a chapel and a preacher, because he said in the rural part of Maryland we don't have churches and there's not enough people to pay for one, so he took his wealth to endow a chapel and a preacher permanently.
The reason why we're bringing this up, America, is because you have to know, you have to have the correct history here. The idea that these people were not men of faith is absolutely abhorrent. It is such a distortion of history. Do you have the book where the modern day book of, they were all godless heathens?
Yes, this one right here.
Yeah, this is
a couple of